Matthew 6:11. The eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, your whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, your whole body will be full of darkness. Unquote. Very interesting. The eye is the lamp of the body. This means that the body is not this physical body with hands and feet and hair. This is the lower self. The higher self is the body that Jesus is talking about here. The eye is the lamp of the body. He's talking about the higher self, the body of the higher self, not the lower self. The body of the higher self is that which the frame of reference observes. So now I am inside the car, or now I am walking in the beach, now I am watching television at home, whatever you are doing, that which is your experience, including your physical body, because your physical body is inside your experience. That includes the trees, the sky, the beach, the car, the houses, your physical body, everybody else that you see within your frame of reference at any given time. That is the body of the higher self. That is the body that Jesus is talking about here. The eye is the lamp of the body. The eye is the one that is giving light to that experience that you have as a frame of reference. In the same way that the candle or the lamp gives light around it, say a radius of 20 meters, in the same way your eyes, the eye of the mind, the third eye, is illuminating your experience. And that experience is your true body. So your true body is the trees that you are seeing, the stars if you are seeing them, the houses, the cars, whatever you are, whatever, including your physical little body, is also a little part of your true body. Your true body is that which is within the frame of reference. And there is nothing outside. There is nothing at the other side of the senses, apart from an ocean of probability waves, the quantum state. There is nothing at the other side of the blue curtain in the sky during the daytime. There is no infinite physical reality outside. All there is, like in a dream, is just imagination. That's why, like in a dream, you can see the stars in your dream, but it doesn't mean that the stars are really out there. Even though if you're dreaming that you're traveling in a rocket, you can take several years to reach them, and when you reach them, the stars will be big and bright. But that doesn't mean that the stars pre-existed before as a physical, real entity there. You're just imagining as you go. Exactly the same with our waking experience. That which every frame of reference observes, that is what you really are. Your true body is not your hands and head and feet. That is why every frame of reference is its own parallel universe. Your body is that which you experience. Very counterintuitive, but this is what Jesus is saying. If we understand his words, he's saying the eye is the lamp of the body. Just like the lamp illuminates an experience, so the eye of the mind illuminates the body. So the body is everything that can be illuminated by the eye of the mind. Everything that can be experienced, that is your true body. So that means that death of that which we think is our physical body, the one with the head and the feet and the hands, when that physical body disappears from the experience, That doesn't mean that we disappear, because that was never who we really are. That wasn't our real body, even though the frame of reference, the perspective of the frame of reference is anchored in the head of that apparently physical body, because that is not our true physical body. When that body disappears from our frame of reference, that doesn't affect our true body at all. Our true body will just imagine a new anchor point from which the perspective will go on, or it will have a 360-degree viewpoint, so that there is no longer a fixed relative perspective. But the death of the apparently physical body has absolutely no effect on the continuation of the true body. This is why Jesus says the eye is the lamp of the body. If your eyes are good, the whole body will be full of light. But if your eyes are bad, the whole body will be full of darkness. Or I would say, if you close your physical eyes, your full body will also be full of darkness, because your true body is that which you can experience. Anything that you can experience. When I saw the UFO, when I was 14, that UFO was part of my true body, for example. So it's very interesting, this paragraph tells us exactly who we really are, very clearly. Narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a few will find it. Well, of course. Very narrow is the road that leads to life, because it's so counterintuitive. It's so counterintuitive to put the interests of other people before your own interest. It's so counterintuitive to not want to know the difference between good and evil in order to avert the responsibilities that come with this knowledge. It's so counterintuitive to start ignoring our very clever thinking process and instead replace it by the counterintuitive teachings of God, and to shift the focus of attention away from our clever thinking process back down into the center of our heart. That is very, very hard to do. Even more hard to keep up, because you can do it for a few minutes or even for a day, but can you keep doing it? Can you keep forever in that state? Can you be counterintuitive? Can you be counter-rational? Can you arrest every second as an opportunity to practice this teaching? This is why Jesus is the road is very narrow. Narrow is the road that leads to life, and only a very few find it. By the fruit you will recognize them. So not everyone who says, "Oh Lord, Lord," and keeps praying will enter the kingdom of heaven, will navigate himself into higher realities, but only the one who does the will of my Father, says Jesus. Matthew 10:12, very interesting paragraph, again very counterintuitive. Jesus says, anyone who loves his son or his daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Anyone who does not take his cross and follows me is not worthy of me. Whoever finds his life will lose it, and whoever loses his life for my sake will find it. Again, very, very, very counterintuitive. Is he asking us to love oneness, the infinity, the single mind, more than the individual objects that we experience within it? Because the objects or forms within the experience of the frame of reference, they come and go. They keep changing shape. They keep being replaced. Even our lower body, the one with the head and the feet, that will be replaced as well very soon. So we must focus our attention in infinity itself, in oneness itself, in the one single mind itself, in the experience itself. We must shift the focus of our attention away from loving the shapes that we find within our experience, and instead realizing that all the shapes that we find in our experience, they are all part of ourselves. The higher self-body, the true body, is that which is experienced. Everything that is outside, although it's not a physical, external reality, is a mind reality, but that which we observe as external, that is our real body. So everyone we see and everything we see, they are all part of us. They are all part of oneness. So we must love that oneness instead of obsessing ourselves with just one or two of the little shapes that appear within our body. This is what Jesus is saying. This is why he's saying, anyone who loves his son or daughter more than me is not worthy of me. Because he's saying, I am oneness, I am the single mind, I am the whole of the experience, I am the true body. That is who you truly are. That's why he said, you are also the Son of God. I am the Son of God, but you too are the Son of God. All of us, every single frame of reference is a universe in itself. That means you are within your own solipsistic reality. Everything that you see is part of you. Your true body is that which you experience. Everything, the mountains, the trees, the people, everything that you can experience at any given moment, that's your true body. So don't become obsessed with one or two of the little shapes that appear within your true body. For instance, your son or your daughter or your wife. Don't get obsessed with them and love them only, and instead give them all your love and deprive that love from the rest of the shapes that also appear within your body. And especially, above all, do not deprive of that love to the whole entire experience, to your true body. Everything that you experience is Jesus. Do not love your son or your daughter more than me, more than your own body, more than oneness. Also says, anyone who does not take his cross and follows me is not worthy of me. Again, he's making reference to suffering. You have to accept your suffering, even though you must use your suffering as a tool to evade sin and to navigate your way to higher realities where less and less evil happens. You must accept this suffering as a tool given by God in order to refine you, just like gold and diamonds are refined by supernovas in the center of the stars before they explode, and when they explode they scatter all over. So God uses the fire of suffering in order to refine his children away from sin and toward higher and higher, better and better hierarchy of heaven-like earths. Whoever finds his life, Jesus continues, whoever finds his life will lose it. It means that if you find your life in the material gratification, if you find your life accumulating material objects, if you find your life placing your interest before other people's interests in order to gather more and more wealth at the expense of others, then you will lose your life. But whoever loses his life, then you will find your true life. Again, it's counterintuitive, very, very difficult to implement. Matthew 12:10. I praise you, Father, says Jesus, because you have hidden these things from the wise and the learned, and reveal them to the children. Because children do not, the little children, he's talking about like little babies yet, very, very young children, little children, maybe in their 5, 6 maximum years old, who have not yet developed the clever kind of reasoning process of criticism and comparison and competition and judgment and so on. The devil may not yet have built his fortresses inside the mind of these little children. The children don't yet well know the difference between good and evil. Their children are therefore exempt and immune from possible sin. They are heaven-like, they are free of sin. Heaven is open to them, and they live actually in a world, even though we seem to be sharing the same earth, actually they live within a higher reality. God has hidden the truth from those who think themselves as being wise, but instead he reveals them to the little children because they are free of sin and they are more close to the truth than those who spend all their lives studying. Again, very counterintuitive, because I would say that this is not completely correct, because science has evolved so much. It gives us the necessary clues to realize that and to confirm that the word of God is actually true. When relativity tells us that light and truth are synonyms, and quantum mechanics tell us that there is nothing outside of the observation of a frame of reference, this actually ratifies and confirms the word. I think Jesus is exaggerating here when he says that God has hidden the truth from the wise and the learned. On the contrary, God inspired Albert Einstein and Richard Feynman and people like that to bring us the necessary knowledge that complements the Word of God, so that we have both sides of the coin, the spiritual and the empirical one, working together to give us a fuller picture of the truth. But I think Jesus was exaggerating here in order to make a point, just as he was exaggerating when he says that anyone who loves his son more than me is not worthy of me. I mean, he's just trying to make a point. Okay, this is also interesting. Say, one of the disciples came to Jesus and asked him one of the few interesting questions that the disciples ever asked Jesus. I think the disciples were rather useless at asking questions. Their questions are always irrelevant, and if any interesting question at all was ever asked to Jesus. Anyway, here we have one exception. We have an interesting question by a disciple who came to Jesus and asked him, "Why do you speak to the people in parables?" And he replied, "The knowledge of the secrets of the kingdom of heaven has been given to you, but not to them. Whoever has will be given more, and whoever doesn't have, even what he has, will be taken away from him." Basically, he's saying that the more you open your heart, the more you shift your attention from the thinking brain, from the devil, into the heart, and the less you do so, the less you will be given, and the less you will have, less and less. So basically, Jesus is saying that the grace of God is exponential in both ways. It grows exponentially or it decreases exponentially. If you grow it, it will grow exponentially. You will get more and more and more in an accelerated way. Well, if you don't grow it, you will get less and less and less, and it will decrease exponentially until you have nothing. The devil will take even the last drops left. So the reason he speaks in parables is because Jesus expects certain people, the children of God, to be able to understand him, while he doesn't want the rest to understand him because they are not the children of God. and he's only here, he only came here to this earth, he was only born in this earth in order to try and save the children of God that are born in this earth. He tried to rescue everyone, but he knows in advance that 1/3 only will be saved. The other 2/3 are hopeless because they are not predetermined to be saved. They are not in the book of life. So those are not predetermined to understand the parables anyway. And in them is fulfilled the prophecy of Isaiah. You will be hearing but never understanding, you will be seeing but never perceiving, for these people's heart has become calloused. So he's talking about the other 2/3 of the earth's population at any given time, who are not the children of God. They can never understand, even if they can hear and they can see, because their heart is closed. They can never understand the parables, while the 1/3 of the human population at any given time are the children of God, predetermined to be so. Their names are in the book of life, and they will be able to understand the parables. Basically, that's what he's saying. When anyone hears the message about the kingdom and does not understand, the devil comes and snatches away what was sown in his heart. The seed is a metaphor that represents the word of God. When the seed follows in good soil, which means in the people who are the children of God, who are predetermined to be saved, when the seed falls on this soil, then the seed grows and flourishes and gives much fruit. But if the seed, the word of God, falls in bad soil, then it never grows, because they cannot understand the word, they cannot understand the seed, the soil cannot accept the seed. So the evil one comes and snatches away whatever little thing or whatever little root the seed had grown in this bad soil. It will never grow, and the devil anyway plucks it out. For example, if you are a person who keep worrying or keep suffering because you keep the focus of your attention in your thinking mind, always listening to whatever the devil is telling you, you're always criticizing, you're always judging, you're always condemning, you're always comparing, you're always competing, you're always putting your interest before other people's interest. You live there in that horrible place. You will keep suffering, you will keep worrying, and the seed will never grow in your soil. These worries of life will choke the seed, and the devil is destroying it at every second, so the seed will never grow in your soil, in your spirit. So it is our duty to shift the focus of our attention away from that horrible place and back down into the very counterintuitive but otherwise truthful temple of God within our hearts. Only that we will be truly happy. Only that we will start navigating into the parallel universes of heavenly events. Jesus says, I tell you the truth, if you have faith as small as a mustard seed, you can say to this mountain, move from here to there, and it will be done. Nothing will be impossible for you. If you have faith as small as a mustard seed, the mustard seed is a very, very tiny seed. It can grow to be a giant tree. So this is why Jesus is using the metaphor of a mustard seed to refer to the faith that is needed. You just need a tiny bit of faith, but it needs to be genuine. It has to be genuine, even if small. You can do miracles. So when Jesus is telling us, or is giving us the recipe for making miracles, this is no metaphor. This is no parable. This is not a fake statement, because it's Jesus who is making it, the miracle maker. giving the recipe of how to make miracles. So we have to take this quite seriously and quite literally. You can say to this mountain, move, and it will move. Very clear. There is no ambiguity. There is no poetic language here. In other occasions, he also said that not only he was the Son of God, all of us are sons of God, because all of us are part of infinity. And because the experience is mind, we have all the capacity, the potential capacity to be able to affect and influence the mind around us. In other words, we have the power, we have a little free will left, which we can use to navigate our frame of reference across different parallel universes, both upwards and back down, both towards heaven or down towards hell. Matthew 17, Jesus says, unless you change and become like little children, you will never enter the kingdom. Whoever humbles himself like a little child is the greatest. Again, we talked about this earlier. This has to do with God revealing the truth to the little children because they don't know the difference between good and evil yet. They haven't yet eaten from the fruit of the tree of knowledge of good and evil. They are pure, they are protected from sin, they are within the truth, they are still living in the Garden of Eden. So we have to go back to that state. We have to climb down from our thinking mind back down in the very counterintuitive center of our heart to become again like little children so that we can re-enter the Garden of Eden, the kingdom of heaven, navigating into a parallel universe of beautiful events without evil. Humble ourselves, climb back down from the brain into the heart. Matthew 22:18, Jesus says, at the resurrection, people will be like the angels in heaven. God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. So there is no death. Death is an illusion. Because you think about death because we believe that we are the lower body. We think we are the lower self, the body with head and feet and fingers. That's not our true body. As I said before, our true body is that which is experienced by the frame of reference. That is who we really are, the higher self. That is eternal, indestructible. So God is not the God of the dead, but of the living. To be like the angels in heaven, because we are not physical. We are already angels, but we are not in heaven. We are like angels, unlike the fact that we ate from the fruit of good and evil. That means we know the difference between good and evil, but angels don't know the difference between good and evil. However, we need to find our way back into the Garden of Eden, and that is navigating our way to a higher level with all your heart, all your soul, and all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And the second commandment is love your neighbor as yourself. All the law and the prophets hang on these two commandments. In other words, we cannot love God if we don't first love what we see. How can we love something that we cannot see if we cannot love that which we can see? So the first step before we can love God truly is to start loving that which we can see. The other people, the trees, the mountains, the street, everything that we can see, to love it. Because that ultimately is also God, because God is oneness. God is the true body, is the true self, which is that which we see. And Jesus said, you only have one master and you are all brothers. So do not call anyone on earth Father, for you have only one Father and he is in heaven. Nor you are to be called teacher, for you have one teacher, which is the Christ. The greatest amongst you will be your servant. For whoever exalts himself will be humbled, and whoever humbles himself will be exalted. When Jesus is going to be crucified the day before, he says, in Matthew 26:54, he says, "My soul is overwhelmed with sorrow to the point of death. Father," he says, "if it is possible, may this cup be taken from me. Yet not as I will, but as you will. Father, if it is not possible for this cup to be taken away from me, unless I drink it, may your will be done." We are all part of oneness, and the will of God is very counterintuitive because the intuition comes from the devil, but we must follow the counterintuitive move, follow the heart. The heart is the word. We have to drink the cup that God has given us. It's a cup that has been predetermined before the beginning of times, because everything is predetermined, every event has been predetermined. So if something horrible happens to you, know that this has been already predetermined from the beginning of time, before everything, even before the Big Bang existed, by God, has been ordained by infinity, because infinity needs evil, otherwise it would not be infinity. So you must drink that cup, you must accept it, and by doing so you are helping out infinity to become infinity, to continue to be infinity. You must remember that by accepting them, even though you have no choice, but by accepting them anyway, willingly and happily, in the knowledge that by doing so you are allowing infinity to be infinity. God is giving his children the worst of the cups. But if we run away and not be crucified, that would send this earth into a different parallel universe. The course of history would have changed completely, not accepting the will of God. The history in this universe has been predetermined, but Jesus had the power, and we have the power to shift, navigate ourselves into a parallel universe where a different history exists. He could refuse to drink that cup, but we must accept the will of God, and that was his will, and that is his teaching.